I will basically do a little review of the 2019 survey findings first, and then I will touch briefly upon resources that I know aren't here anymore that I surveyed in 2019. And then information that I found since 2019 about some of the properties here in Fitchburg. I have a weird, I wouldn't call it a photographic memory, but I have a pretty good memory that if I see something that I've seen in the past and there's historical information on it that I didn't know before, I can usually track back to which community I saw it in. And I do have 2 instances of kind of some fun information that I found out after the fact. At least I think it's fun. And then I will conclude with how you can look up properties on the state database. Some of you may already know how to do that, but I'm just going to walk you through how to be able to do that. And you can look for things in Fitchburg, or if you have interests anywhere else in the state, you can just poke around and use it. The other thing that that is good for is if you are poking around and you see some information that isn't correct, what? That means I did something wrong. It's entirely possible. You can actually contact the Historical Society directly and give them information to correct what's on there, as long as you can absolutely prove why you're right and I might have been wrong. So to start off, there are about 120 properties that were previously surveyed in Fitchburg before I even came. They were in the state database. Most of those photos were taken in like 1977, 1982, so they are black and white images, as you can see up as examples there. So the start of the project was September 2018. You already had 5 properties that are listed in the National Register, as you can see the photos of them below. Some of you may have read the survey and thought, why aren't the National Register properties discussed in here? Because they're already listed, in short. Ultimately, the reason I did the survey was to determine what else is out there that is potentially National Register eligible. So I'm not ignoring your National Register properties. There is a list in the survey. And I think the survey is actually posted on the city's website, so it's easily accessible. One property was officially determined eligible previously due to a Department of Transportation road project, the McManus-Pritchard Farmstead. So that was previously determined eligible, and what that means is it is potentially eligible for the National Register, which means if it hadn't changed when I looked at it, it was still eligible for the National Register. So that was another one that I really didn't have to do much other than take a look at it and make sure that everything was still intact on the property. So in order to be eligible for the National Register, it has to be eligible under one of 4 criteria. It either has to have significance in history, significance to a specific person, which is criterion B. Criterion C is architecture, so either it's a good example of a specific property type, say a schoolhouse, a church, a gas station, or it has to have a high architectural style to it. Criterion D, archaeology, that has to do entirely with things underground, which I am not an archaeologist, so I did not find anything eligible. I wasn't digging in anybody's yards. But that is the 4th criteria for eligibility for the register. And then overall, for me to go out and survey it, it needs to have a degree of integrity. This is not located in Fitchburg. But ultimately, this is an example of a house that would not be surveyed because it's missing its windows, the porch is half gone. The integrity of the building is just not there. You just can't make an evaluation on a property that has lost that much of its original fabric. So I did identify 3 historic districts, potentially, and then 12 individual properties I discussed. So the key word here is recommendations. So yes, I've been doing this a long time and I pretty much know what is potentially eligible and what is not. But they don't just let me go off by myself. I actually have to have state historical society staff with me to verify their eligibility. So it's not just me saying it's eligible, it's somebody from the Wisconsin Historical Society as well. And even though we think something is potentially eligible based on the research that I did, there are always instances, thankfully not too many, where when somebody maybe locally or myself does a little bit more research and I find out, ooh, that wasn't quite right. So, so again, the key word here is their recommendations. So these ultimately are what rose to the top after doing research and looking at everything in the community, because I drove up and down every single public road. So the fish hatchery dates back to 1876, but the earliest buildings or features that are on the grounds to date, the earliest dates to circa 1939. And they're all located east of the Lower Drive. The hatchery is the oldest of all of the DNR-operated hatcheries in the state. And although the buildings have changed over its 140-year history, they have evolved along with the evolution of fish raising. And again, the hatchery's function remains the same: to produce and distribute fish for recreational and conservation purposes. And as a result of that, that is why this property is considered eligible under Criterion A for its history and its association with recreation and conservation. And that would not only be on a local level, but it would also be on a statewide level, since the hatcheries are located throughout the state. And then here's, we have to draw a boundary around districts so we can show exactly the extent of the property and then identify each of the buildings.